Democrats dumping more gas on the anti-ICE fire they started, even as frontline agents face an 830% spike in violent attacks. The Rhode Island Democratic state rep just called border agents, quote, Nazi Gestapo thugs, following an operation that resulted in the arrest of a known MS-13 gang member. Great timing, kids. And the Looney Tunes over at MSNBC are freaking out over alligator Alcatraz, but they can't decide which Nazi smear to use. Watch.
That is traditionally called a concentration camp or an internment camp. And I wonder about your specificity in using that language.
Well, I sure as hell am not going to use what they're calling it. They want to ethnically cleanse this country of certain types of immigrants. Because when I was in that internment camp in the Everglades, I didn't see any Europeans who overstayed their visa. I saw nothing but Latino men and Haitian men.
And if that wasn't deranged enough, the media is doling out tips on how illegals can stand their ground against masked ICE agents.
When you're masked like that and people don't know who you are, someone might exercise their lawful right of self-defense to protect themselves, thinking they're being kidnapped. So the notion that this is for law enforcement's protection is utterly ludicrous, and we need to do away with that.
They've really raised their standards of attractiveness over there at MSNBC. Woo! That was quite a panel. So, Dana, there's one group, the Save America movement, that is raising hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach people how to stalk ICE agents. And we've seen that violence against ICE agents is up over 830%.
Right. So this week we came back from the weekend and we were talking about this still. Why? Because the Democrats are perpetuating the issue and ICE is continuing to do its job and it has the legal backing to do it. But you have ICE agents, they're asking them not to wear masks. But then the headlines are Antifa targets ICE agents at their homes. So what is an ICE agent supposed to do, especially, let's say, that your wife is saying, excuse me, we've got 3 children here, we have to protect them. And if they're willing to do this, remember, last week, the Democrats anonymously told Axios that they were recommending someone get shot in order to perpetuate the storyline. The other thing is, I'm not exactly sure about that group, but other groups like the Democrat Project, they spend all sorts of time and effort to try to get taxpayer dollars that they can then funnel into causes that they care about. They do this on education and DEI. They've done it on immigration. They do it with the teachers' unions. They did it on the trans surgery stuff and the crazy opera that we heard about in Colombia. So all of those things are happening at the time when the Democrats are, I think, completely wasting their time on the immigration issue that should matter to them.
Yes.
Like, do they want to go and save the people at Alligator Alcatraz, or do they want to save the Dreamers? Pick one, right? And go as a group and say, Mr. President, can we see you for a second? Because we really messed up in 2017. We should have worked with you on that. We'd like to now. And see if he's willing to do it. And he might be. And that way they could change the subject from defending Alligator Alcatraz detainees.
Well, they have to do something because Democrats, as we pointed out in the last segment, they are underwater in the polling. I don't think immigration is necessarily helping them. I also don't think that one of the most visible mouthpieces of leftist causes, Rachel Maddow, calling prisons concentration camps. First of all, it's not appropriate. Second of all, it's incredibly offensive to Holocaust survivors and their families, many of whom tend to be Democrat voters.
I would agree with you. I think that, Dana, and you're saying it well, Democrats' unbelievable focus on the worst is distorting any kind of ability to get to a broader, smarter immigration policy. And it's completely distracting us from the issue that is dominating politics today, which is affordability. If you look at all the races around the country and look at the races over the last year, special elections, the last 6 months since President Trump's been in office, they've been defined largely by cultural issues and economic issues. We are wrong on a lot of this, the transgender sports issues, which we've got to get right on for people to even listen to us, let alone take us seriously on the issues that matter to their wallets and pocketbooks, and then get to talking about affordability and what we're going to do differently. Greg laid out a litany, enumerated 3 or 4 things where President Trump, there's an opening. And instead of not capitalizing, but offering answers, we're throwing flames on an issue that the president has an enormous amount of support for. Now, having said that, what the president's struggling with, Kennedy, I think, is trying to figure out what are we trying to get accomplished with our immigration policies. We know we want to get the worst out of here first. We know we want to clamp down our border, and he's done an excellent job at that. But now we're trying to figure out, and I keep saying this over and over and over again because I think it's true, what is the hierarchy that we're trying to get to when we talk about deportations? There are people who've been in this country, who have lived in this country, who've worked in this country, who are entrenched in this country in so many ways and are important to our daily lives as everyday Americans, who we're now deporting. And the question is that the group, are these the people we want to deport? That's where Democrats ought to be asking the questions of, instead of trying to defend the actions of people who apparently have committed the worst acts and frankly should be deported from the country.
All right, so is there a middle ground to be found here? Is there a risk for this administration that they go too far and deport too many people? And will that do damage to the movement and to the party?
Not to the movement, not to the party, maybe the low-wage economy, but then the wages are going to go up eventually and it'll be fine. Harold, it's time to fact-check you. 70% of these illegals who are getting iced either have criminal convictions, criminal charges, or a judge has ordered them deported. That's the worst first. Don't worry, be happy. No American has been deported. Not a single American has been deported unless a family member was deported and they wanted to tag along home. Not a single person has been murdered at these detention facilities, and no one's been forced to work. So I also haven't seen a lot of white Europeans in these facilities because they're not the ones who have been breaking into our country. And if there are some Serbians that have expired visas, then send them to Alligator Alcatraz, unless they can play ball. And I'll reconsider, Harold. We had the warden of Alligator Alcatraz on the other night, and he said he caught Debbie and a bunch of these other Democrats mid-hoax. He said he caught one of these Democrats holding a thermometer up to a light bulb to prove that it was overheated in there. And then he said Debbie was putting to a sandwich across the room saying it was gray turkey. And it was in a package so she couldn't see it. And then the guy asked for seconds. Who asks for seconds for bad turkey? These guys have no idea what they're talking about, especially this crazy woman. She says, on the one hand, every migrant in America is terrified of ICE. And on the other hand, when they get arrested by ICE, they're not sure it's ICE. And it might be an ICE imposter wearing an ICE hat, an ICE badge, and an ICE vest. Can't have it both ways.
Oh, you go to prison for a long, long time if you're impersonating.
I've tried.
Especially federal
I'm going to be an ICE
enforcement.
agent for Halloween. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.